it was lovely.
Where have you
It was
travelled
lovely.
from?
We were in the Southwest, in the States.
Yes.
Yeah, so we took a flight to Dallas and then Amsterdam and then Cardiff.
Fantastic.
And got here so jet lagged.
I bet
but it was so gorgeous here.
Yeah.
I'd
Well, we've got
never
the sun
seen...
out for you. So
you brought the
that's
sun.
good.
I'd never seen so much green. You know, we
Wonderful.
get rain twice a year in New Mexico, and so to see so much green and flowers the size of my face, it was just gorgeous. And then my first days here, it didn't stop raining. I'd never been anywhere where it rained for 72 hours straight.
Yeah, or longer sometimes in Wales. But anyway, welcome to ESTA 2023.
Thank you.
It's lovely to have you with us. You were giving a talk this morning, multicultural music for the youngest violinists. I'm intrigued to know, why did you choose this particular topic to present here at ESTA?
Such a good question. So I've been teaching young beginners for years, and I noticed there was no problem with young beginners that were my students. I'd tell them, you know, do 100 bow holds, do 100 tucka stops, come back to me, and they would do it, and it was no big deal. And then I became a parent, and I decided I would do this with my daughter, and I told her, you know, let's stand up tall, and she would like melt to the floor. Or I'd say, let's do a bow hold, and she'd just say no. I'm like, oh, we need to do something different. This isn't working. And just doing the techniques wasn't working. And so I was one day in the kitchen just singing and dancing to She Was Coming Around the Mountain, an American traditional tune. And she came in and she was singing and dancing with me. And it was like this beautiful moment of connection that we haven't had since we started violin lessons. And I felt connected to her, and the power of the music was what connected us. You know, as musicians, we talk about the music connecting, the music bringing healing, the music bringing peace, and yet we don't have that in our lessons. So many of our lessons are technically based.
Do you think that's so difficult because string instrumentalists, as we both are, I'm a viola player myself, because that isn't connected to the human voice, it's not a woodwind instrument, we're not using our breath, and instead we're getting this very foreign object in a very unnatural position. Do you think there's something to be said for that as well, and incorporating some vocality and some singing and what have you into that would help in a way?
I think that's yes, you've exactly hit the nail on the head. We approach this as a technically awkward instrument instead of taking it from our body, from our voice, and having that time to sing and experience the music, and then it can naturally go to the instrument. It's not a technical instrument, it's a musical instrument. So when we approach it from the music side of making music with our body, making music with our voice, making music on our instrument, it becomes not a technical thing, but a musical thing that brings that healing and that connection and that beauty that we need in the world.
I think that's a fantastic thing, and it's so important to get that connection from as young an age as possible.
Exactly.
To know that the two are in fact interlinked at all times. I think that's a beautiful thing. And I saw a clip of your talk this morning, and I believe it was just at the start for a kind of warm-up thing. You were getting all the participants on their feet, you were doing rhythms and body percussion, you were singing, you were, you know, doing all these different vocal, physical exercises and interweaving them fantastically. I'd like to know, I assume that comes from this experience in the kitchen with your daughter, and I think that's a lovely thing. I'd just love to know more about that and why you choose to incorporate that.
Oh, absolutely. Yes, it came from my experience as a parent, my experience teaching early childhood music. I taught Suzuki Early Childhood and Fire Robin and Music Together, Kodai and Orff also have these amazing things. You know, my kids come into my studio and they may study violin until high school, college. They may continue after college and play in the youth symphony or the community symphony. It's always my goal that they'll play forever, but they may not. They may not play forever. They may not even have their instruments forever, and they certainly won't have their instruments on them at all times. And I want them to be a musical being. I don't want them to be a violinist. I want them to be a musical person. I want them to be able to create music around the campfire. I want them to create music when they're holding their newborn baby. I want them to be able to create music when they're at their wedding and on their wedding day and move and dance in time. My goal, yes, I want beautiful violinists, but I want beautiful human beings who can be musical even when they don't have their instrument, even if they stop taking lessons. We need more music and more of this beauty in our world.
And is that where this book comes in? Tell me more about this lovely publication.
Oh, absolutely.
This is We Violin, World Music, Proprietary to Twinkle. I think that's lovely. Tell me more about this.
Oh, okay. So so often we think we will start creating music when they know how to make music, right? When they know how to stand, hold the bow, then we'll play Twinkle Twinkle Little Star, our first song, right? And then we'll make music, and then we'll be musicians. But when you teach a 3, 4, 5-year-old, it's going to take sometimes a year, sometimes 2 years before they're technically able to play Twinkle Twinkle Little Star. And I want music to be in those lessons. And so the repertoire that existed pre-Twinkle Twinkle Little Star was not repertoire that had great melodies, great harmonies. It was music that existed in the bubble of early childhood violin teaching. It didn't exist out in the world. And I wanted my students making music from the beginning and connected to the world around them. I wanted them connected to their generations past and present and future. I wanted them connected to cultures around the world. So I started looking at all the collections of music of Kodai and Feyerabend and all these great pedagogues that are focused on preserving this cultural heritage of music. Started looking at their collections and being like, okay, what of this can I use that teaches these pre-twinkle or level 0 techniques? Which ones can teach the détaché bow stroke? What songs can teach a bow hold? What songs can teach mountain posture? What songs can teach violin seat? Because I want them to have music from the very beginning, and then they start twinkle. You know, so often we use the word pre-twinkle, and I absolutely hate that word, because it's like calling the Mendelssohn concerto or the Kabalevsky concerto the pre-Mendelssohn concerto. Like, Kabalevsky's good on its own. Or calling book 3 pre-book 4. Like, book 3 is good on its own. Like, this level, this beginning level, level 0, foundation level, pre-twinkle, whatever you call it, it can have great music of its own merit, and our kids can make great music from the very, very, very beginning.
There's something to be said there as well. There was another talk focusing around female composers at this conference and speaking about numerical value to the grade system and how potentially rethinking that might work wonders, especially for younger musicians, as opposed to thinking I must strive to this numerical level that equals this amount of musicality. So I think that's a lovely ethos to have, and that obviously goes right into your publication. I think that's just beautiful. And just to close, I'm interested to know, having had this journey, so to speak, intrinsic with your motherhood, how has this influenced your playing as a violinist, as a musician, and your general musical being?
Oh, that's a great question. I think Julie Lyon Lieberman put it beautifully earlier in her talk of there is not one way to make music, and the Western canon is not the only music that exists, that there is music throughout the world, and it's all valuable, and all sounds are valuable, and all levels are valuable. Wherever you are, like you said, it's not about achieving this or this or this. Where you're at is a valuable place and a needed place and a good place. Wherever you are at technically, wherever you are at culturally, that is needed and that is good, and that sound you make is exactly what the world needs right where you're at.
I think that's beautiful. Thank you so much, Crystal.
Thank you so much.
It's lovely to have you with us.
Absolutely.